President Obama looks for high-tech help for his glitch-filled website while his poll numbers continue to crash. That plus Democratic Senator Joe Manchin joins our center seat. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. President Obama is bringing in a high-tech executive with experience to fix his massively flawed healthcare website. But rebooting his administration's badly damaged reputation might need more long-term help. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Jim Angle here in the Bureau with growing outrage over the prospect of the government penalizing you for not staying in shape. But we begin with Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry with executive action many feel was long overdue. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Brett. It was only today, nearly 80 days after the botched rollout, that the president turned to a Microsoft executive to try and help dig out, which may explain why we've now seen a whole series of polls suggesting this president now has lower approval ratings than President Bush did during his rough second term. As President Obama brought in top tech executives from companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, and Netflix to discuss NSA surveillance and solving the problems that have plagued healthcare.gov, he also mentioned the Netflix series House of Cards, about a power-hungry and revenge-obsessed congressman played by Kevin Spacey. The president saying he wishes action in Washington was, quote, that ruthlessly efficient.
That's true. I was like Kevin Spacey. I was thinking, man, this guy's getting a lot of stuff done.
Questions remain about why the president did not get done huddling specifically on healthcare with these tech giants before October 1st, and why the president waited until today to bring in an experienced old hand like Microsoft executive Curt Delbaney to run the site, as he officially takes over tomorrow for Jeffrey Zients, who was only brought in after the botched rollout. Why in the world didn't the White House come up and hire someone like this in the summer, in the spring, a year ago to roll out healthcare.gov?
I think your question goes to the absolute acknowledgement that we've made that healthcare.gov had a terrible start.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said those are half-hearted apologies, and he charged congressional Democrats have done nothing to actually fix the Affordable Care Act.
That's their whole approach to this rolling disaster. Let the White House dodge and deflect on any problem that arises until people forget about the last one.
The public believes something dramatic needs to be done to improve the law. According to a new Washington Post ABC News poll, it found 60% want a delay to the individual mandate. 33% wanted to proceed on schedule. More worrisome for the president, 43% approve of the way he's handling his job. 55% disapprove, which means the president is ending his fifth year in office with lower approval ratings than almost all other recent two-term presidents. In a Washington Post ABC News poll at a similar point in his presidency, George W. Bush was at 47% positive, 52% negative, raising questions about whether this president will also see a stalled agenda in his second term.
You won't hear an argument from me that everyone in Washington has taken a hit because of Washington's performance of late.
Now, Jay Carney went on to say that the president was encouraged by the recent bipartisan budget agreement. He sees it as a hopeful sign. He might be able to get deals on immigration reform and other issues next year. Brett?
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. More on this with the panel. It appears Big Brother may indeed be watching you as you eat junk food, lay on the couch, and don't exercise. Chief National Correspondent Jim Angle tonight tells us about another way the president's health care overhaul may be stripping away your privacy and your money in the name of good health.
An officer with the National Union of Healthcare Workers said today that under Obamacare, things such as smoking, obesity, and other health conditions can force even those with employer-provided insurance to pay more.
I run about 5 miles a day. I don't drink. I don't smoke. And by the Kaiser Wellness program that a number of employees who we represent are covered by, I'm 2 pounds from being overweight.
Kaiser said in a statement their program is voluntary and charges no penalties for individuals who don't reach the program's goals. The rules for such a program put out in May as a regulation say, quote, the program must be reasonably designed to promote health or prevent disease.
There's such a lack of precision in what's going on out there that it's kind of troubling that this was so heavily incorporated into the Affordable Care Act in the way that it was.
Wellness is very, very popular in the corporate world. companies are just beginning to pose some pretty severe penalties.
If workers don't participate, they can be charged up to 20% of their health insurance premium, going up to 30% in January. Employers like wellness programs because they think they attract healthier workers. For instance, CVS drugstores imposed a $50 fine per month, $600 a year on those who refuse to disclose their weight, body fat, or other health measures. Walmart penalizes smokers by as much as $2,300 a year if they want coverage. And one analyst says the 50% penalty for smoking permitted by Obamacare is assessed against the entire cost of the plan.
So if you have a plan that costs $6,000, a typical employee would pay $1,500. His 50% penalty is for the full $6,000, so that would be a $3,000 premium increase. His premium out of his pocket will triple if he's a smoker.
Borsos also argues wellness plans can be very intrusive, asking a series of rather personal questions.
Have you ever had a total hysterectomy? How much do you weigh? During the past week, I have felt lonely, yes or no? During the past week, I have felt sad, yes or no?
There's an ongoing debate about whether these programs save costs. One analyst argues they may save more for Medicare than employers because old age is one unhealthy lifestyles. Catch up to us. Brett?
Okay, Jim. Thank you. Well, do you have a question about Obamacare or something else? For West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. He'll be in our center seat in just a few minutes. Let me know at facebook.com/BrettBairSR or on Twitter @BrettBair and use the hashtag Special Report. The stage is set for congressional passage of the bipartisan budget deal. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel tells us the critical vote on cutting off a filibuster happened a few hours ago.
The yeas are 67 and the nays are 33.
12 Republicans joined with Senate Democrats on a bipartisan budget deal, surpassing the 60-vote threshold. Democrat Senator Patty Murray, who negotiated the package with Republican Congressman Paul Ryan, said ahead of the vote, it's a compromise.
It doesn't tackle every one of the challenges we face as a nation, but that was never our goal. This bipartisan bill takes the first steps towards rebuilding our broken budget process and hopefully towards rebuilding our broken Congress.
Some who voted to move forward say they'll oppose it tomorrow on the final vote, including Missouri Republican Roy Blunt. Supporters, including some conservatives like Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, say this two-year agreement is more efficient than short-term continuing resolutions, a point Maryland Democrat Ben Cardin made on the floor.
We now have the opportunity to enact priorities that are important today, recognizing that some of the past spending is not necessary and there's other areas that we need now to adopt.
Others suggest Congress doesn't have a good track record of authorizing more spending and actually paying for it.
We'll spend more now, we'll grow the government more now, and ultimately the spending cuts will never materialize.
And NZ's fellow Republican Kelly Ayotte is among those opposed to the deal because it would hurt retired military, including some forced to retire after being severely wounded.
It's $6 billion over 10 years within this budget agreement. I certainly appreciate the hard work that went into this agreement, but it is absolutely wrong to take from our military retirees, those who have sacrificed the most, to take it from their backs to pay for this budget agreement.
Democrat Armed Services Chairman Carl Levin says he plans to look into why those retirees were singled out. Meanwhile, Republicans are signaling they're preparing for a fight early on in the new year.
Every time the president asks us to raise the debt ceiling is a good time to try to achieve something important for the country. And as you all know, many significant pieces of legislation have been attached to debt ceilings over the years.
The budget agreement is expected to pass with only a simple majority needed tomorrow. Then soon, Republicans plan to take on Democrats on an issue they believe is a winner with the public, trying to get a handle on the nation's debt. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thank you. We'll talk about some of this with Senator Manchin in a bit. NASA's little green ninjas, zombies that teach math, and gophers protected by the Pentagon. Those are just some of the abuses of your tax dollars outlined tonight by one cost-conscious senator. Correspondent Doug McKelway has the story.
This year's installment of Senator Tom Coburn's annual Waste Book may make some in Washington squirm with discomfort. It documents profligate federal government waste like $125,000 to build a 3D printer pizza and more than $17 million in brothel tax exemptions. This in the year where many complained that sequestration left little to cut.
If these abrupt cuts remain, we risk fielding a force that over the next few years is unprepared due to a lack of training, maintenance, and the latest equipment.
The Waste Book details how the Department of Defense is leaving 2,000 MRAPs, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, behind in Afghanistan to be destroyed rather than delivered to other bases. Each MRAP costs $500,000 to build. It documents how Congress authorized the purchase of 21 C-27 transport planes from Italy, even though the military didn't want them. Stuck with the $631 million purchase, the Air Force mothballed the planes in the desert before any of them flew a single operational mission.
Half of them we're going to cut up and half of them we're going to put in the desert. What do they think about that? I mean, it doesn't fit with common sense.
Nor do the spending habits of many other agencies. The State Department spent $630,000 to attract followers for its Facebook and Twitter accounts. NASA is spending $3 million to study how Congress works. The National Endowment for the Humanities received nearly $1 million since 2010 to explore the origins of popular romance media. And while taxpayers have spent $319 million to build the healthcare.gov website so far, estimates show that more than twice that will be spent on publicity and marketing. Yet Coburn doesn't blame the agencies. He blames Congress.
Most members of Congress are more interested in getting themselves reelected than they are in fixing what's wrong with the country.
Coburn spares neither Republicans nor Democrats. He doesn't name names, but he names one title, the Senate Majority Leader. Coburn said Harry Reid's refusal to adhere to regular order and bring appropriations bills to the floor contributed to Congress's lax oversight of federal government spending in 2013. Brett?
All right, Doug, thank you. Stocks were down today. The Dow lost 9. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both dropped around 6. Up next, new questions tonight about just who is using chemical weapons on whom in Syria. But first, here's what some of our Fox affiliates across the country are covering tonight. Breaking news in Reno, Fox 11 there with the breaking news on a shooting at a hospital in that Nevada city. Reno police say a gunman wounded 4 people, then took his own life. WJBK in Detroit with the $636 million Mega Millions lottery jackpot. Tonight's payout shapes up as the second richest in U.S. history. Again, that drawing is tonight. 43 states take part. And this is a live look at Denver from Fox 31. The big story there tonight is a suspension for the University of Colorado professor whose lesson plan called for teacher assistants to dress up as prostitutes and other sex workers. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.